Hello, this is Short Stories, and I am your host, Martin. Today I will read one of Hans Christian Andersen's most famous stories, The Little Mermaid. It was first published in 1837 as part of a collection of fairy tales. Since then, it has fascinated adults and children alike. Perhaps you've seen the 1989 Disney movie. The central question of the original Andersen version of the story is whether or not it is possible to earn a soul. I think this is a fascinating question that, unfortunately, gets left out of the Disney film. I guess it was too serious a question for little kids to comprehend. Anyway, let's dive right into this fishy tale. Vocabulary. Make a beeline for. Make a beeline for. At parties, he always makes a beeline for the buffet. Take one's breath away. Take one's breath away. The fantastic beauty of the Alps took my breath away. Squall. Squall. The ship was sunk by a sudden squall. Capsize. Capsize. The ship capsized due to the imbalanced cargo. Soiree. Soiree. The royal family invited me to their fancy soiree. Mute. Mute. It's hard for her to communicate because she is mute. Despondent. Despondent. He felt very despondent after his father's funeral. Ascend. Ascend. The balloon ascended into the sky. The story. Far out in the ocean, where the water is enchantingly blue and clear, it is very, very deep. It's so deep that no one can measure it. There dwells the Sea King and his subjects. In the deepest spot of all lies the castle of the Sea King. Its walls are made of coral, and its windows are made of the clearest amber. Here lives the Sea King, his 6 daughters, and his aged mother. The 6 daughters of the Sea King were all very graceful and beautiful. They delighted in tending the royal garden, where they grew sea grass and brightly colored soft coral that waved gently in the current. The oldest daughter liked to arrange her coral in the shape of a whale. The second daughter arranged hers in the shape of a merman. The other daughters also preferred shapes familiar to them, sea stars, crabs, and squids. But the youngest daughter arranged her coral in the shape of the sun. The youngest daughter's name was Ariel, and she was a little bit different. She was a strange child, quiet and thoughtful. Besides her garden, her favorite possession was an old marble statue that had sunk to the bottom of the sea a long time ago. It was a statue of a handsome young man, and nothing gave her more pleasure than to hear about the world above. She eagerly listened to her grandmother tell her tales of ships, towns, animals, and people. "When can I see such wondrous things, Granny?" asked Ariel. "When you are 15, answered the old woman, "you will have permission to rise to the surface and sit on the rocks in the moonlight. Then you will see ships and towns and trees." Ariel's 15th birthday soon arrived, and she wasted no time in going to the surface. She could see a ship floating above and made a beeline for it. When she surfaced, she could see everyone on board the ship. It looked like they were having a party. There was music and dancing and food and fireworks. Ariel marveled at the scene for a few minutes before she saw something that took her breath away. A handsome prince. The young prince was having a birthday party on his father's yacht. He and his friends were having such a good time that they didn't notice the approaching storm. The squall struck suddenly, catching the crew unprepared. Men scattered in all directions as they hastily tried to tie up the sails and batten down the hatches. But it was too late. A rogue tidal wave washed over the ship, capsizing it. Ariel watched as the prince fell into the water, unconscious. She swam to him as quickly as her tail would allow. Ariel held the prince in her arms and carried him to shore. In the morning, the prince awoke to find that he had survived the storm. He was alone on the beach, and his clothes were soaked and speckled with sand. "How did I survive?" he asked aloud, but there was no answer. Ariel watched from behind a rock in the sea. "Oh, I wish I could reveal myself to him," thought Ariel. This thought made her feel sorrowful, and she returned home in a cloudy mood. Ariel's sisters asked her about her trip to the surface, but she said nothing. She moped around the castle for a few days before her grandmother asked, "What's wrong, my dear?" Ariel told her what she had seen and asked, "What are humans like? Are they like us?" Grandma shook her head and said, "No, they are not like us. For one thing, they have much shorter lifespans than we have. A mermaid can live up to 300 years, but a human can only live for a quarter of that time." Ariel sighed. "But humans do have one advantage," continued Grandma. "They have an immortal soul that lives forever after they die. We merpeople just turn to sea foam." Ariel tilted her head as she looked at her grandmother. "Is it possible for a mermaid to gain a soul?" she asked. "I don't think so," answered Grandma. "It would take a lot of magic to make something like that happen." Just then, an awful idea popped into Ariel's head. She knew where she could find magic. One day, while her father and sisters were occupied with a royal soiree, Ariel swam to the abode of the Sea Witch. She lived in a place where no fish dared to swim. Even sharks were too afraid to venture there. Ariel approached the Sea Witch's cave cautiously. "I know what you want," said the witch before Ariel could even speak. "You want to trade your tail for a pair of legs so that you can go on land and marry that prince, eh?" "Yes," replied Ariel, "and I wish to gain an immortal soul so we can be together forever." The Sea Witch laughed. "The only way for you to gain an immortal soul is to make a human fall in love with you," the witch said. "When a human falls in love, a part of his soul will transfer to you." Ariel asked the witch to give her a magic potion that would turn her into a human. The witch said she would, but the price was Ariel's beautiful voice. "I'll do anything for love," was Ariel's reply. She signed a deal with the Sea Witch. As soon as the contract was notarized, the witch chuckled and said, "Oh, I forgot to warn you. If you don't get the prince to fall in love and marry you in 1 year, you will die." Suddenly, a cloud of black soot burst out of a vent below the witch, and she vanished. Ariel was not deterred by the Sea Witch's warning. She swam to the beach where she had left the prince and drank the potion. As soon as she gulped the poison, she felt a sudden and intense pain in her tail, like a sword piercing her body. She writhed in agony as her body transformed. The pain was so intense that she passed out. When she awoke, she saw a woman standing over her. "Let's get some clothes on you, you poor thing," she said. Ariel tried to say thank you, but no sound came out. The woman then said, "You're lucky the prince found you. Otherwise, you'd have died of exposure on that beach." "Success!" thought Ariel. "My dream is coming true." But Ariel's dream wasn't quite so wonderful. When she tried to walk, she felt a sharp pain in her feet. She winced, and the woman helping her called her friends to help. They carried Ariel to the castle and took good care of her. Over the following weeks, Ariel gradually learned to act and behave as a human. She wore pretty dresses, tied up her hair, and ate with a knife and fork. She even managed to walk even though the pain was still there. Ariel became a guest of the castle, and everyone knew her as the Mute Girl. The prince was very charmed by her beauty and mystery. The two hung out together often. He even took Ariel with him when he went horseback riding. Ariel loved exploring the prince's kingdom. Everything seemed so new and amazing to her. She thought that the prince was falling in love with her for sure. What Ariel did not understand about princes, however, was that they typically do not marry for love. A prince must marry a princess, not a strange, dumb foundling that he discovered on the beach. The king arranged for his son to marry a princess from a neighboring kingdom. Ariel was heartbroken when she found out. She was so despondent that she didn't eat or sleep. The day of the wedding arrived on the last day of the magic spell. "Tomorrow I'll be dead," thought Ariel. The wedding was held on the king's flagship. It was the grandest affair in the kingdom's history. Everyone was happy except for Ariel. She sat on the gunwale, looking dejectedly into the water. To her surprise, the sea witch appeared. "Hello again," she said. Ariel glared at her angrily. "Don't be angry. I'm here to help," said the witch. She held out a dagger and said, "There is one way for you to avoid death. Take this knife and plunge it into the prince's heart. Then let the blood drip on your feet. You will turn back into a mermaid and live for 300 years." Ariel looked at the knife. The sea witch smiled and said, "Quickly now, when the sun rises, your time will be up." Ariel reluctantly took the knife and entered the bridal cabin. Ariel stood there for a few minutes, watching the sleeping couple. On the prince's soft breath, Ariel could hear the name of the bride. "He's dreaming about her," thought Ariel. She stepped closer, the knife shaking in her hand. Ariel looked at his noble face and was reminded of his kindness toward her. She flung the knife out of the window, and it sank into the sea. Just as the sun was rising, Ariel then flung herself into the sea. As soon as she hit the water, her body immediately started dissolving into foam. She could feel herself rising above the waves. "What's happening?" thought Ariel. A kind and gentle voice answered her. "You are among the daughters of the air. Do not fear. Your noble deeds earned you a place here." "Who are you?" asked Ariel. "We help mankind, and by doing so, we earn our place in heaven." "Does that mean I have a soul?" Ariel inquired. "Not yet, but in 300 years you shall have earned your immortality," the voice replied. As Ariel rose higher, she looked down and saw the prince and his bride. They were looking for her. Ariel sent a gentle breeze to kiss the prince's forehead. Then Ariel ascended into a soft pink cloud that floated above. Questions. Number 1. When can Ariel visit the surface? A. When she gains a soul. B. When she marries the prince. C. When she turns 15. D. When she turns 18. The answer is C. When she turns 15. Question 2. How can a mermaid gain a soul according to the sea witch? A. She must marry a prince. B. She must marry a princess. C. She must turn into a human. D. She must make a human fall in love with her. The answer is D. She must make a human fall in love with her. Question 3. What does Ariel trade for the magic potion? A. Her hair. B. Her soul. C. Her voice. D. Her tail. The answer is C. Her voice. Question 4. What happens to Ariel at the end? A. She marries the prince. B. She kills the prince. C. She kills the sea witch. D. She dies. The answer is D. She dies. Sorry, it's not the happy ending of the Disney movie.